We heard the call. We looked for the new moon. This year, we didn't see the new moon, but we know it was there because the evidence of the night after. And around the world, we were able to speak with others, other groups, and it was verified. We were able to receive images of the new moon. When I say the new moon is actually 100% dark, or as close as to 100% it's going to get for that period of time. But then there's a pattern that we look for, which is the pattern of light. And once we see the pattern of light, we start our count. We say day one, because it is on day one that we witness the light. Day 10, because on day 10, it is then when we witness that day 10, we are now in day 10, which is Day of Atonement. And then it says on day 15 is the time that the bride goes away. And as the bride goes away, we are there, as it says, you celebrate for 7 days. Now that's very little that it says, for 7 days. And then on the 8th day, which means it is detached. So as we begin, are we ready? As we begin to move forward, we're going to start with Leviticus chapter 23, verse 26 through 32. Atonement, I shall destroy. Now that's kind of opposites there. One is atoning for sin, the other is destroying for sin. And so let's kind of look into this and see what are our instructions, because this is life or death. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, for you, and you shall afflict your being, and shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. And you do no work on that same day, for it is Yom Kippur, to make atonement for you before Yahweh Elohim. For any being who is not afflicted on that same day, he shall be cut off from his people. And any being who does any work on that same day, that being I shall destroy from the midst of his people. You do no work, a law forever, throughout your generations in all of your dwellings, all of your houses. It is a Sabbath of rest to you, and you shall afflict your beings on the 9th day of the new moon, or the new month, at evening. From evening to evening. You observe your death. So the first thing he says, you shall afflict your being. And bring an offering. Now, generally, we look at offering by fire as an offering of food. And as the priest receives the food, he puts it on the altar, that which is burned, and that which is sinned is a foreshadow, going way back, a foreshadow of Yeshua being put in the grave and then his body ascending, him awakening from the dead. So that was only a shadow of things to come. But he says, offering made by fire to Yahweh. We got food, but we're fasting. So what about affliction? The affliction is the fast. So that's why he says, afflict your being. That's the first thing. You shall afflict your being. So that's the first thing that happens. But then after the fast, what do? We eat. So therefore, you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. So the food portion will still be there. And one other thing, he says, you do no work. A law forever. I want everyone to read what is in red, and I'll read before that sentence to bring us to it. But I want everyone to look at it and get ready to read when I get to it. You're going to read what is in red. I will read the other print. And any being who does any work on that same day,
that being I shall destroy
from the midst of his people. So who's talking? Yahweh is still talking. He began this conversation.
Right.
He's talking to Moshe. He's giving us instructions, and he's saying, this is a law forever. Anyone who does any work on that day, that being I shall destroy. So you don't want Yahweh seeking your life. Now, does it mean your life every time? Well, we can see a little bit here where it says that you shall be cut off from the people as well. So cut off means when I'm gathering Israel, you're just cut off. Whether you Israel or a Gentile. So he means what he says. Well, did this, you might be cut off from the people who are gathered, and that you don't want. We'll get into that a little further. We'll see more of it. But when do we observe the 9th or the 10th day? On the 9th day of the new moon at evening, from evening to evening. So that means the evening of the 9th through to the evening of the 10th day. So here we are. We are now in between the evenings. The evening of the 9th started last evening, and the evening of this evening, when the sun goes down, we should be all back in our homes preparing our meals or getting ready to eat at sundown or thereafter. (23), and I'm going to be in Leviticus for the first few slides. 23, verse 33 through 38. So let's begin to look for the instructions, and now we're going to look forward for what comes after this once we follow the instructions. Now remember Pool of Shalom, the man who was there at the pool for how many years? 38 years. But he never once was able to follow the instructions. I've been faithful for a long time. For 38 years. but not until he was able to be given is that he could follow, he was able to be healed. So 33 through 38. And Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel, saying, on the 15th day of the 7th new month, is the festival of Sukkot for 7 days to Yahweh. On the first day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. So that's the first set of instructions. On the 15th day, now remember, we're at the 10th day now. So in 5 days, let's listen to it again. On the 15th day of the same 7th month is a festival of Sukkot for 7 days to Yahweh. On the first day is a set-apart gathering. You do no servile work. So if on the first day we do no work, what must the first day of Sukkot be? A Sabbath. It is a Sabbath. On the 8th day, wait a minute, I thought we were supposed to do it for 7 days. Okay. On the 8th day, there shall be a set-apart gathering for you, and you shall bring an offering made by fire to Yahweh. It is a closing festival. You do no servile work. So if the 8th day is a set-apart gathering, what is it? A Sabbath. It is also a Sabbath. These are the appointed times of Yahweh which you proclaim as set-apart gatherings. Every day besides the Sabbath of Yahweh, and besides your gifts, besides all your vows, and besides all of your voluntary offering, which you give to Yahweh. I want to correlate this to the wedding that during Yeshua's time. So I put a little notation for myself. Time came, and everyone who was invited. The first set of people who were dignitaries. So I got a new modern vernacular. I got a new lawnmower. I need to go take care of my yard. Another said, I just got married. I need to go and be with my wife. Another says, I gotta go to work. I can't make that time. So Yeshua said, go back out and invite the poor, the hungry. Invite anyone you find and anyone who will. Let them come. So they came. And the wedding feast, and it was filled, and no more room was left. And then there was one person there who didn't have his wedding garment on. And they went to that one person. They said, why are you here without your wedding garments on? And the master of the wedding said, bind him hand and feet and throw him out where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. And they did so. with the Mashiach, and they have on their garments, they're ready, they're being flown to a place that was prepared for them. But when they went in, the door was shut. Matthew chapter 25 explains it this way. It says, 5 was foolish, 5 was wise. So when the wise went in the door was shut, and the foolish were already on their journey to get oil. When they came back, they found the door closed. And they knocked and knocked and knocked. And the master came to the door and they said, open up for us. And he said, depart from me. I know you not. So that will be a say for many who say, I'm awakened. But they're falling short on the commands. Because you're awakened, it's not a pass that you should not follow the instructions. The man who was at the pool of Siloam for 38 years, he was awakened too. But it didn't give him a pass for healing. We must know the 39 through 44, waving of the offering, Sukkot. More information for the 15th day. So this is going forward. This is what we must do after we leave here and we head to our place that we have already labored for and is ready and waiting for us. On the 15th day of the 7th moon, when you gather in the first, celebrate it in the 7th new moon, dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native born in Israel dwell in booths, so that your generations know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths. When I brought them out of the land of Mizraim, I am Yahweh your Elohim. Thus did Moshe speak of the appointed times of Yahweh to the children of Israel. So there is a bit of a difference between Leviticus chapter 23 and Exodus chapter 12. Exodus chapter 12 is the time of Sukkot. That is the first city that they were able to stop at, which is the place that Jacob stopped at. So when they came out, they were at the place of Sukkot, where they stayed for a few days. So today it is a remembrance, not a redo. Remembering coming out of Egypt. On the 15th, we will be where we need to be. We will travel and be in place by the 15th day. So we will get there actually on the 14th day before evening comes in, because when evening comes in, it will actually be the 15th day. So we will be there in place. So what do we need to do? Going back to the instructions. The first day is a Sabbath. So the Sabbath coming in the evening on the 14th in the Hebrew calendar, we will be there. The sun goes down the next day. And then he says on the 8th day is also a day of rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day and have fruit on that day. Branches of palms. We plan to have branches of palms. Now, the good thing about being here in Africa, it is plentiful here. So, one of the things back in the States we always had to do, and of course, my wife was always sent off for what they call the lula, or the four, but we just call the 4 species. And so these species, the leafy twigs and the willow, crepe myrtle, right across the street. When you see all of those flowers up there, you know that that is crepe myrtle. So we have already identified a location for each of these. We will be ready on the 15th day, in other words. So what do we do with this? It is a wave offering. Once a year. This is a command. A command. It's not if you want to, or it's a command that this is what we do. So once a year, we do this at Sukkot. And so it is to families represented with the four species, and you head back to those who have. So, and verse 11. So let's now look forward to what does trumpets, atonement, and Sukkot lead us to. So we're looking again to what the scripture says we shall see at the coming of the Mashiach. And we'll see whether we kind of see this now or not. Joel chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. Blow a shofar in Zion and sound an alarm in my. The inhabitants of the earth tremble, for the day of Yahweh is coming. For it is near, a day of darkness and gloom, a day of clouds and thick darkness, like the morning clouds spread over the mountains. A people many and strong, the likes of whom has never been, nor shall there ever be again after them. To the years of many generations, ahead of them, a fire has consumed. Behind them, a flame burns. Before them, the land is like the Garden of Eden. And behind them, a desert waste. And from them, there is no escape. So there's no escape on earth. Nowhere we can go. to hide. No one can hide. No one can get away. Verse 11, Joel chapter 2, verse 11. And Yahweh shall give forth his voice before his army, for his camp is very great. For mighty is the doer of his word. For the day of Yahweh is great and very awesome. And who does bear it? So the day of Yahweh have been misinterpreted for many years. Many people interpret it as Sunday, the Lord's day. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about the day of vengeance. And what should it look like? It should look like sudden alarm. The earth is trembling because of darkness, gloom, clouds. We're trembling because of what is happening in the earth. And so if this is what it looks like, let's kind of look at what is happening today, what is going on around us. And I took these three are all three different cut and paste, but news articles that I pulled up. And so they're going to relate to what I'm going to say now. So I wanted to bring an image so that you can have a better image in your mind of what is going on. So the Sahara Desert has been severely flooded. Sahara Desert? Wait a minute. That seems like a conflict by itself. The point of a desert is there's not enough water. But this is a sign of the time that he says is going to take place. Now, we already read it in Joel, so now you need to see it. If you see my first picture below, and I'll read my caption also. It says, palm trees are flooded in a lake caused by heavy rainfall in the desert town of Mazuga, near Rachtidia, southern or southeast or southeastern Morocco, on Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. And this is by the Associated Press that have put this out there. Now, this one is not, or the image that you're seeing is not the Sahara. It is the Mazuga, as I read. That is that desert. So there's two witnesses, because I didn't bring in another picture, but you see, and it says Sahara also was flooded. My last little phrase here, according to experts, this rare celestial phenomenon will be visible across the Pacific Ocean, parts of the South America, parts of Central North America, Peru, and Fiji. It is also expected to be partially visible in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and the US. And so what we are looking at on the right-hand side are two phenomena. One is a solar eclipse on the top with the moon in front, and you see the light almost looks like a ring. And the one on the bottom is a lunar eclipse. I'll explain the both of them, and I'll give better understanding for them as I go. But the top one, which is the solar eclipse, is where the moon is in between the earth, the moon, and the sun. And the outer perimeter is what we see, because the moon is in front of the sun, and the glare of the sun is shining around it. And so this is a sign in heaven. And if I can step out a little bit on this, could this be a sign to the bride?
Yes.
That it is a ring? And what is the sign? The Sabbath. The Sabbath is our sign. And so Yahweh said that he would put what? Signs in heaven and in the earth. And so here's the signs in the heavens and the signs of the earth that we see. The last sentence here will explain the moon. Sky gazers are set to get a special treat this month. On October 17th, the celestial event at the full moon. We haven't got to the full moon yet. The full moon is coming. Remember, we're at the 10th day. But at the 15th day is where the full moon comes in. Now, why is it October 17th? Remember, Gregorian calendar and the Hebrew calendar are not aligned. So you can see where the 15th day will be a full moon as normal in the Hebrew calendar, that is. And what we will see, and it corresponds to the 17th day of the Gregorian calendar. And for all those who understand that when you do Sukkot, it's always in the middle of the month. When you do Passover, it's in the middle of the month. All of them are in the middle of the month. There is only but one that begins at the beginning of the month, and it is the day that no man knows, the day nor the hour. So we get to this according to what we read here. Notice that Wednesday, October 2nd to October 3rd is when the first one happened. We could not see it from here. I had already alerted some of us here to the event that was to happen. And so we were already scheduled to be looking on the 3rd. So the 2nd is when it started, but on the 3rd, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning is when they saw it in India. So here, there's a difference of time, but it's the same moon. So we have to look at it at the time that we should see it here. And so we couldn't see it here, there was no need in trying to say, oh, what time will it be seen here? Because it was already down in the southern hemisphere. And so I had already prepared for all of this. I knew that on Thursday, the 3rd, we would also look. So the wife and myself, we did look. Others got the word. Charles, his family, they looked. So we went up to the 2nd floor of our home, out on the balcony, and we stayed out there for a while and tried to see. It was so cloudy, we could not see it, but we knew it was there. And so we had witnesses from around the world that said that it was verified, and they saw it, and they sent in pictures. So we was able to say the new moon has been for the 17th. Day, it is now waning. I'll say it again. From 1 through 15 is waxing. From 16 through the 30th, it is waning. So, leaving that alone. And trust me, this is very controversial. There's a lot of conversations going on about when to keep the feast. And the last word that I come to, I'm going to try to stay in the light. And if the scripture, there's one scripture that I must stand on, no man knows the day nor the hour of the coming of the Son of Man. That he is the light, and that when we see the light, we start our count. And I have to stand on that, not to go back through all. We looked at 23, and we've gone through the instructions for the remembrance. So we're doing the remembrance, and we will complete them at Sukkot. That's the only time we can do the wave. Then we are now at fast of atonement, and now we're going to look at the atmosphere of what it should be like when the Messiah has returned. Joel is still telling us about his coming, so this is still prophecy. Yet even now, declares Yahweh, turn to me with all your heart and with fasting. So here's the fast part. This is the instructions. And with weeping and with mourning, and tear your heart, circumcision of the heart, and not your garment, and turn back to Yahweh Elohim, for he shows favor and is compassionate, patient, and of great loving commitment, and he shall relent concerning the evil. Who knows? He might turn and relent and leave a blessing behind him, a grain offering, a drink offering. For Yahweh, your Elohim, I love how he made this into a question. Who is going to lead the offering? It says, who knows? He is speaking about Yahweh, might relent and leave a blessing behind him, a grain offering, a drink offering. For Yahweh, your Elohim. Wow. Yahweh is calling Yahweh Elohim. Okay, I'm going to leave it. Blow a shofar in Zion, set apart a fast. Call on an assembly. Gather the people. Set an assembly apart. Assemble the elders. Gather the children and the nursing babies. Let a bridegroom come out from his room, and a bride from her dressing room. Let the priests, servants of Yahweh, weep between the porch and the slaughter place, and let them say, spare your people, O Yahweh, and do not give your inheritance to reproach for the nations to rule over them. Why should they say among the peoples, where is their Elohim? And as he asked this question, I want to kind of point back to the beginning readings. The beginning readings where it says that they ran on the windows, they ran on the walls, and as they were coming in, I had to keep going back over and over. Who is this mighty army that Joel is talking about? I wanted to be very sure. Who is this Israel who have now been turned into the army? And so if this is Israel, then why is it he's saying, where is the Elohim? And so as I began to really just go line by line to examine, my conclusion is that the first great army that comes is those who are coming to slaughter anyone who has not applied the blood. That's the army of opposition. That's not Israel. But Israel is in there. But wait a minute. Because the first one, it says, there are so many of them, and they are so disciplined that they never get out of rank. Because he says, they ran on the windows, they ran on the walls, and they entered in to a land to destroy. Now remember, Yahweh uses armies. He uses weather. He uses animals. He uses insects. He uses people. So these people are a descendant of people who are enemies of Israel. And they will come and they will destroy anyone who have not applied the blood. When I say applying the blood, we know that they had to apply the blood coming out of Mizraim. But Yeshua, he is our door. He is our keeper, our master. And he is the door. And so the blood has already been applied. It's up to us to accept the blood. And so this is why he says, you come out of her, my people. Is different from let my people go. All right, so let me give a little bit more on the grain offering. We read that a little while ago in a few verses back, where he says the grain offering, the drink offering, and now he says, who knows? Yahweh is talking that he may leave an offering behind. And so I believe I have it here, so I won't go through everything here. But there's a reason he says, who knows? A grain offering, a drink offering for Yahweh. For Yahweh. For Yahweh Elohim. So we're going to continue to examine Joel chapter 2, verse 23 through 27. And you, children of Zion, be glad. So the tone is going to switch here from preparing you for war, and if you have not followed the instructions, look and see if the atmosphere, and now I already showed you the image where we have fire in the sky, blood moon, dark sun. Okay, I will show a little bit more, but understand when he says it's a day of gloom and doom. Understand what you're looking at when you're looking into the sky, what is taking place. And you children of Zion, be glad and rejoice in Yahweh Elohim, for he shall give you the teacher of righteousness, and shall cause the rain to come down for you, the former rain and the latter rain as before. And the threshing floor shall be filled with grain, and the vats shall overflow with new wine and oil. Then I shall review the years that the swarm has eaten, the crawling locust, the consuming locust, and the gnawing locust, my great army which I sent among you. Then you shall eat and be satisfied. There's that grain offering. And shall praise the name of Yahweh Elohim, who has done with you so wondrously. And my people shall never be put to shame. And you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am Yahweh your Elohim, and there is no one else. And my people shall never be put to shame. So right here, let's understand that he's talking about everything that we saw leading up to this time is the time that the teacher or the rabbi, the head rabbi, the Messiah, the anointed one, will be with us. And he's going to give us the former and latter rain. And he says, your vats will overflow. So Israel, no matter wherever you are, as he gathers us, there will be no lack. So on one hand, there's destruction. On the other hand, there is plenty. Know who is who. So those who are being destroyed, because Yahweh says, I shall destroy anyone who does not do this, keep the feast and the fast in its proper time, I shall destroy. The Messiah shall come, the door opens, the wise go in, the door closed. Then those who are left on the outside will suffer. Even though they are Israel, they will be out there where there's weeping and gnashing of teeth. But the wise will be inside where the place of preparation is for Israel. So let's kind of look at another. I like charts. I like visuals. So this is my last chart, actually. So I will show you over the past few years what have we seen in the skies. Although some of us may not have recognized it, but I can tell you, number one, each of these years plus more, I've been a part of. We've been a part of. We've been looking, because I've been warning before the time, and we would look out for these signs in the heavens. So what I have is on one side an illustration of a lunar or a lunar sun, when the earth is in between, and it's a lunar moon. And then we have a calendar where we're going to look at both sun and moon for the last 4 years. Okay, illustrating a moon or a lunar eclipse. A total, and I'm reading from the top one, a total lunar eclipse takes place when the earth comes between the sun and the moon, and its shadow covers the moon. Eclipse watchers can see the moon turn red when the eclipse reaches totality. So when the earth is totally in between the moon and the sun, the earth reflects on the moon. And that's where Joel was saying a blood moon. As a kid, I didn't understand blood moon. I didn't understand how blood get in space. I didn't understand that. But now I understand. So as a child, knowing that I didn't understand makes me want to help others understand. It's a lunar eclipse, what we call it today. But it appears red. So it signifies what Joel is warning us, you will see before the coming of the Son of Man, Yeshua HaMashiach. Cosmic lovers, the next reading. Cosmic lovers are set to experience an exciting celestial event on October 2nd. The sky watchers will observe the second and final solar eclipse of 2024 on Wednesday through October 3rd, when the moon and the sun will produce a dazzling ring of fire in the sky, visible in certain regions of the globe. Now, we already read the different places. So we had some of the northern hemisphere, some of the southern hemisphere. But here in Africa, we could not see it. So there's images and there's different things that are out there that will show you the path. And when it shows you the path, it shows you what time it will be in this part, what time it will be in that part. And so the beginning of our year, well, I have the map. So 2024 and 2023, I'll be kind of referring back to them. Remember we talked about April 8th, how the United States was going to be hit with a shadow, and it was going to be a lunar eclipse, and it's going to kind of X out. It will be the second X. The first one came in 2017. The first X went from California to East Coast, and the next one is going to go from West Coast to East Coast, which forms an X. So only Yahweh can tell us what these things, but it is the United States being X'd out. We have to wait and see what happens. And so, again, our lunar eclipse, here is our sun, and here is a visual showing that this side of the earth is fully lit, but it's reflecting, going around the earth to the moon, and the moon appears red. So this is what Joel is telling us about the blood moon, and then the dark sun, gloom and dew. Okay, so here we're going back to 2021, and trust me, I saw each of these as we look for them. So in May, there was a total lunar eclipse, and in June, followed by a dark a dark earth. So the earth at this point is in front of the sun, and what you see is the outer glow from the sun. So the moon in 1 month, the next month the sun. So a lunar eclipse followed by a solar eclipse. In the mid of our year, at the end of the Gregorian calendar, we see the same thing take place. And then look at December, where once again we see what looks like a ring. Yahweh he's speaking. So 2022, we see a partial and a total. So the solar or the earth is in front, and then the total, and the same thing happens on the other side, October, November.
The earth or the moon?
It is,
The moon.
this is the earth in front.
The earth is.
This is the earth in front. Excuse me, I'm sorry. This is the moon. Now I'm getting confused. Here is the sun. So we look, if we see the moon, sun, we can see the sun if you live on this side. But those who are looking at the moon, they are seeing the moon appear red. It is the reflection on the moon. And so what I have is both solar look and the lunar look. This is where the earth is in front of the moon. This is where the earth is in front of the sun. So, and I have to keep it straight there because this is what we're looking at, both a dark sun and a red moon, okay? Because some years where the sun is totally blocked out. That depends on the position, whether it's closer to the sun. If it's closer, it will block the sun out. That's total solar eclipse. But this is an annular eclipse. So I'm going to leave it there because I can confuse myself on it. All right, so 2022, we see the same pattern. 2023, look at the pattern again of this eclipse here, which is the sun in front of the moon, where here we see the moon in its dark state, another pattern on the other side, and then 2024. This is where we are now. At the beginning of the year, during Passover. And then here is where we are now. And actually, we're going to have another one, here. Actually, October 17th. So I can keep them straight in my head. So October 2nd and 3rd, what we saw was a solar eclipse, but we didn't see it. It wasn't observable from, if that's a word, we couldn't observe it from Africa. But on the 17th to come will be, that's not it, here. It's going to be, well, not that month, but it's here also. But this one is solar. So the lunar is not on this calendar. We will see it. And if we don't see it, that's what's calculated. We should see it because it will be a full moon. But when it comes up, you have to catch it in its first 10 to 15 minutes because it will clear up and you will never know that it was red. And it will be a super moon, they call it, or a hunter's moon. It will be the closest that the earth is to the moon. So therefore, it's going to look like one of those type of moons where you can put your hand up and touch it. It's going to be that type of moon. Job verse 28 to 32. I shall pour out my spirit. So as Yahweh is saying, pour out my spirit on all flesh. So let's look at it from the scripture point. And after this, it shall my spirit on all flesh. And your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and old men dream dreams, and young men see visions. And also on the male servant and on the female servant I shall pour out my spirit in those days. And I shall give signs in the heavens and upon the earth, blood and fire, and columns of smoke. The sun is turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the coming of the great and awesome day of Yahweh. And it shall be that everyone who calls on the name of Yahweh shall be delivered. For on Mount Zion and in Jerusalem there shall be an escape, as Yahweh has said, and among the survivors whom Yahweh calls. So we see all of the things that Yahweh says will take place in heaven and in the earth. These are things that we are saying. We see them, and we shall see them. And so, after this period of time, and the destruction comes, because there's two great armies at motion. One army is going in, and they really are going throughout the nations. And the earth is being destroyed. If I can go to another scripture. Isaiah chapter 34, verse 7. Verse 7. And so if you see that scripture, that's being fulfilled during this time because there is another army. And remember the scripture says, and at that time, Israel shall stand up and fight. But guess who's fighting for Israel? Yahweh. But Israel, an army will go forth and fight against the enemy because Israel will have to leave very quickly to get to the place. And so from around the world, they will come. But Yahweh have to ensure that his wives come safely. Anybody have that verse already? You want to go ahead and read it? Read it really loud because we're live.
And the unicorn shall come down with them, and the bullocks with the bulls, and their land shall be soaked with blood, and their dust made fat with fatness.
So is that verse 7?
Verse 7, Isaiah chapter 34,
34.
verse 7.
Verse 7.
Yes.
That's 7? So go to verse 1. Let me make sure I'm in the right place.
Come near, ye nations, to hear,
Yes.
and hearken, ye people, that the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it.
Go to verse 7. Go to 8. Go to verse 8.
For it is the day of Yahweh's vengeance, and the
Yes.
year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion.
So it's the year of vengeance for the sake of Zion. That tells me he's gathering Zion. And that's what we are reading because after the gathering, he's going to do a revival because he has Israel. When they come out of their place of preparation, he's going to pour out his spirit on all flesh that have survived, Because, as it says, for Mount Zion and Jerusalem there shall be an escape, as Yahweh has said. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 30 through 18, Yeshua is coming. Let us see. Now, brothers, we do not wish you to be ignorant concerning those who have fallen asleep, lest you be sad as others who have no expectation. For if we believe that Yeshua died and rose again, so also Elohim shall bring with him those who sleep in Yeshua. For this we say to you by the word of the Master, that we, the living who are left over, at coming of the Master, who in no way go, that we, the living who are left over, at the coming of the Master, shall in no way go before those who are asleep. Because the Master himself shall come down from the heavens with a shout. The Master himself shall come down from the heavens with a shout, with the voice of a chief messenger, and with the trumpet of Elohim. With the trumpet of Elohim. With the trumpet of Elohim. And the dead in Messiah shall rise first. Then we, the living who are left over, shall be caught away or taken away with them in the clouds to meet the Master in the air. And so we shall always be with the Master. So then, encourage one another with these words. So this is the conclusion of our message for today. That as we prepare ourselves and we do this, what we have been commanded to do, when the Master comes down, we shall be caught up with him. And it's not a rapture either. It's only those who are doing what he says do. And the instructions we already read, and we must follow the instructions. Then we get to this part, to safety. Let's give Yahweh a praise.